Hey guys, back again, and this time I will be reviewing 2007's Vacancy, starring Luke Wilson, Kate Beckinsale, Frank Whaley, Ethan Embry, Scott G. Anderson, Mark Casella, David Doty, Norm Crompton. It is 5 AM in the morning, and I just got done watching Vacancy, and to be honest with you, I really liked it. I liked it a lot more than I thought I would. I've seen it before, but a long time ago. I think I saw it in about 2008. So I'm watching it again, kind of like a breath of fresh air, new again kind of thing. And there's a lot of things I didn't realise about, but I do now. Like, let's start off with a review. So basically, they're Luke Wilson, David Fox is driving along. They don't really get along that well. And she tells him he should have cut the intersection, he should have done this, he should have done that. They have a problem with the car, and they pull over and they see a mechanic. The mechanic talks to him, helps him out, and then they go on their merrily way. Now, the mechanic seems a little bit weird, but normal. From middle of nowhere. So they drive on, and basically the car breaks down. They then walk off to go to the motel, but they don't know there's a motel in Beach. They see a motel, right? And basically, but on the way there, they talk about someone called Charlie. And Luke Wilson's character Dave Fox says about how at least he talks about it. You can't hold it all in. Now, when I heard the Charlie, I thought, this must be their child. This must be a child they've lost or something because they're a married couple and they've got marital problems. And marital problems and losing someone normally involves a child, sadly. So they get to the motel. They go in and they meet Mason, played by Frank Whaley, who is really, really weird and creepy. And he seems to keep wanting to do this one-upmanship with David. Like, tell him he can call mechanic, but he needs quarters. So David gives him money to get a quarter, and then he says, "Oh, you can't call him to some other," kind of like, and getting the right change kind of thing. So, so then they basically end up getting a room. Now, the character of Mason, the manager, when they go in there, they hear screaming and yelling in the background, and it turns out it's on the TV. But this is a sign of things to come, because they get in the room. There's cockroaches, and it's not the nicest room. But what do you expect from a motel in the middle of nowhere? So, Luke Wilson so David, I keep saying Luke Wilson, I said the character's name. David ends up looking on the TV, and there's nothing on TV. It won't work, even though they pay the extra for it. So he decides to put one of the VHSs in. Where the first sight he gets is of a guy being pulled up, strangled, and all this, and someone being tortured in the background. He decides to take that out and put something else in. One of the quotes from the movie is he says, "Well, I think this must get the honeymooners in the mood," kind of like sarcastic. And then it occurs to him, the people getting tortured on the VHSs are being tortured in the room that they're in. So they're in the room, but they're being tortured in. Amy goes, "Can you just turn it down?" before she realises. And he says, "No, he's saying about the room." And she goes, "Oh." Now, this is the bit where I really liked, because I thought to myself, they put the VHSs in there because they want to get the reaction of the person. They want the person to realise, oh, holy shit, I'm fucked, basically. And I really liked that. I thought that was great. And I really enjoyed that bit. And then the bit where he looks and he finds both the cameras recording the room, excellent. Then they start hearing banging and knocking and phone calls. I think the phone calls are actually before the video. But hold on a minute. Oh, thank you for waiting. And basically, Then the lights go out, and there's more banging, and then you see somebody in a mask behind them, and then he disappears when the lights come back on. And this is slowly when the film goes slightly downhill, because it goes from basically them banging on the door to them trying to escape, to them running back in the room, to them trying to escape again, to them trying to run back in the room. There's a great scene where there's this guy that pulls up in a truck, and they're banging on the window, help us, help us, help us. And then they realise that there's no point, because Mason gives him basically a big box full of the tapes. And they realise that that bloke technically is paying for their death, because he's going to end up with the tapes. So I thought that was quite horrifying. The killers, one of them being the mechanic. Yep, that's right, the mechanic. He was in on it. And the other killer, which hasn't got a name, they chase after him continuously, basically. And they get out of the room through a tunnel where there's rats. They get through there, they get in the office, and then they end up going back through the tunnel again. And it kind of, a lot of film feels like they're retreading over and over and over again. You know, like the cat and mouse game is kind of stuck. And then the police officer turns up from a call that they tried making earlier. They tracked it. And basically they cut the car wire so the car can't move. When the police officer gets out with them in the car, he lifts up the hood, looks in there, and as he puts the hood down, you see it from their Amy and David's point of view from inside, and the killer's behind him and just kills him. I thought that was great. Now, the film, I found it highly fun, and that the one thing I did really like about the film was I like the claustrophobic side of it. I like how it felt really claustrophobic. What I mean by that is they're stuck in that motel area, they can't get anywhere else, and there's people around them, and you're like, how many killers is there? Where are they? Any move could be the last move, and it was like the world was just coming in and in more and more and more and more. Now after the cop gets killed, they run back in the room, shut the door, run through the rooms, and basically Luke Wilson has this, not Luke Wilson, David has this idea to basically rip a bit of her clothing off, put it in the window, and then get her up in the loft kind of thing. And it works. It works really well. The one thing I didn't expect was as soon as he opened the door to run, that he'd be stabbed right in the gut. Now, that bit made me jump, and I have to admit, that bit was quite horrifying, because it just showed that a plan cannot always come out. Like, what I mean by that is most of the time you see the good guy gets away, punches a couple of guys, well hey, it saved the day. But not Luke Wilson, he gets one right in the stomach, and then you see him crawling on the floor, and you see Amy, his wife, basically seeing him from the loft, crying because she sees him, you know, going. I like that because I thought that was like in your face, boom, you know. So then basically Mason looks and he sees the window ripped thing and he says, look for her. So basically they leave. And then I'm guessing because it's light, it's the next morning. Now, as she jumps down to go out the room, one of the killers is behind her and he chases her. She gets into a car which has a screwdriver in it, fortunately. And she starts driving with one on the roof with his hand and head down inside the sunroof. And the other one comes out of the motel room and she crashes right into him, gets him up against the wall. The other guy's dead above her. As she gets out of the car, the mechanic's mask comes off and he looks at her. He's like this. And she's like, and then you've got Mason coming in, trying to get in really clumsy, because I kept thinking of him as like the Weasel, because he kept ordering them to do it, and he wasn't doing anything himself, you know, when it came to killing. So basically, she gets the gun, he gets it out of her hand in the office, he beats her up a little bit. Yeah, he beats her up a little bit. And then he decides to mess the whole thing up by going, "Oh yeah, look at the film, look at the film, look at the film. I should have killed you." And then basically she ends up shooting him in the chest 3 times. Now, like I said, I like the movie. The one thing I didn't like about the ending was the fact that when she goes to look at David, he's still alive. Now, I don't know how long he was out there in the cold for, because it was night time and then it was day. But come on, he had a big stab wound in his stomach twice. And then they just kind of attacked him. And you're like, he should be dead because that would make more sense. But one of the things I did like about the film as well was I like the character development. There's a bit when they're both sitting scared and Amy apologises to him and goes, "I'm sorry about our relationship, really, really out of it. And I'm sorry about our child, basically." And Charlie, I think his name was. Can't remember now. Sorry about, I should have made sure the gate was up and the stairs. So basically he fell downstairs and died, which I thought was quite heartbreaking. Because you could tell these two really loved each other, but you could tell there was that distance because of what happened. And I think Amy had a lot of guilt, and David wanted to kind of fix it out, but she couldn't fix it. But it was like in those final moments, it was okay. They were united again, and I like that. I thought that was great. Yeah, I thought everybody was great on the acting. I really did. I thought Frank Rady was great as the manager. He was really, really creepy and eccentric. And you looked at him, and I've got to admit, I was like, I really want to see him get bitch slapped because he was that type of bloke, that type of weasel where you just want to, And I was quite glad that Amy got to do that because, after everything he did, he should have got killed by a woman, in my view. The two killers, the mechanic and the killer bloke, played by Ethan Embry and Scott G. Anderson, I thought they were all right. They didn't really need to say anything. They were just running about, and the rest, the masks were quite creepy. The masks were quite creepy, which I thought was quite good. The snuff movies were really creepy. When they first came on, I have to admit, they put me a bit on my edge of my seat because this whole film makes you think, well, if I'm in the middle of nowhere, I'm gonna try not to end up in a motel, especially one that's practically empty, because it's scary. So one thing I've learned is never to stay in a motel. It was bad enough with Psycho. Yeah, but see a big house on a hill, don't stay. See a small thing with hardly anybody there, don't stay. So I really liked the film. I thought it was alright. It's one of those films where I'd watch it once and I'd like it, but if I watched it more than once in maybe a year, I probably won't feel the same way. Not because it's not good, but because I know what's going to happen again. Do you know what I'm saying? So, you know. So anyway, my final thoughts on this is Luke Wilson and Kate Beckinsale are really good in this movie. I liked the movie. I thought the ending was a bit rubbish. Like, as she finds the phone call thing in Mason's pocket and she can plug it in and then call the police. That was a bit silly. And Luke Wilson's character, David, was still alive. But other than that, I really liked the movie. I thought it was pretty good. I enjoyed it quite a bit. I would probably give it a 3.5 because I enjoyed it, but there was a lot of things that should have happened. Like the bit at the end where she gets in the car, it would have been a lot more scary if the killer just grabbed hold of her from back and slit her throat, and that had been the end. But we are talking about American films, and that's not going to happen because someone has to survive in the end. But I would have thought that would have been really creepy, There is a Vacancy too. I've heard bad things about it, but it's written and produced by the same person who wrote this one. So I'm going to give that one a go probably tomorrow, give it a review, and let you guys know what I think of that one as well. So, as always guys, thanks for watching. This is a 3.5. Let me know what you think of the movie. I didn't think it was that bad. I recommend giving it a watch if you haven't. So thanks for watching guys. Take care. and have a lovely day. Bye bye.